Frank Pesh Sr. worked hard for 35 years to build a good life.
Did you make that? Yeah, I made it, right? And it cost me $1 to make $1.
Pop, you get better pizza in Korea. Who the hell made that, Michelin? Well, you put it in the trunk and use it as a spare.
To raise a loving family.
Do you see my service revolver around?
So I gotta do everything around here. I gotta find your gun. Maybe I should ride in the car.
This is a movie that I have never seen before. It's 29th Street is a 1991 movie, and I found about it from the Joe Rogan Experience when he had the last time Joey Diaz there in March. And I was like, okay, he recommended this movie because he was like, Joe, they don't make this kind of movies anymore. And I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And I watched the trailer and I really liked it. And I was like, okay, let's watch it. And this kind of this movie is one of those movies in that category of movies that you say, oh my god, they don't make this kind of movies anymore. And to be sincere, sometimes it's very true, because some movies that you see today are like people have lost the artistry behind making movies. Directors and screenwriters kind of lost this technique in making a true beautiful movie. And even some of the directors you have today, some old school directors like Steven Spielberg, have kind of lost it. But still you have directors who technically are also kind of connected to this movie. You still have directors like Martin Scorsese who haven't lost it, who when I saw last year's The Irishman, I was like, oh my god, this is one of those classically made movies. And this one also is like very good. 29th Street, you can see that this is a movie that was influenced by movies from the 70s and 80s, and the action of the movie happens in the 70s. And let's talk about the plot of the movie. The movie starts with our main character, Frank Pesh, who is played by Anthony LaPaglia. And the movie starts with him winning at a lottery, and apparently he's very angry about that he won. And he starts throwing some snowballs at a church, and then he starts throwing snowballs at a priest. Being frustrated that he won at the lottery, he's taken to the police, and then he starts telling his story. That's when the real plot of the movie begins. And the movie is about an Italian man who was born in New York on 29th Street, and all of his life he was a very lucky man, although he never really profited from that luck of his, because he never he never took advantage of his luck. He never went to gamble. Well, there is like a scene where he goes to an underground gambling ring, and you'll have to see that scene. It was very funny, and there are some interesting funny stuff that happens to him, and you can say that his luck is very supernatural sometimes. This movie is like a good mix between comedy and the drama, and some of the jokes, I would say, they were okay. They were pretty basic, nothing risque, for instance. But what I think elevates this movie is the drama, and Anthony LaPaglia, who I was very surprised to find out that he's Australian. I always thought that he's Italian, but no, apparently he was born in Australia. His father is a native Italian who moved to Australia when he was 18. And when I heard, and I was like, oh my god, the Anthony LaPaglia, maybe his accent still is a native Italian, but when I heard him in a interview, he really had one of those Australian accents, and he can do a very good Italian accent. So the guy is very talented. I think Anthony LaPaglia is like one of those underrated actors that never got really famous. He is more known for his other 90s movie Empire Records, which I think I saw like 10 years ago, and he was also in a crime procedural drama TV series Without a Trace, which I never got to see, and he also appeared in the last Annabelle movie from 2017, Annabelle Creation, but Anthony LaPaglia never became really famous. The other talented actor that we have in this movie is Danny Aiello, who passed away in 2019, and Danny Aiello was a very, very talented actor, and he was also an actor that hasn't really received that many awards for how talented he was. He appeared in movies such as Leon the Professional and Do the Right Thing, and in Jacob's Ladder, and in Once Upon a Time in America, with Once Upon a Time in America being one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, Danny Aiello was such a talented actor, and he plays Anthony LaPaglia's character's father. I also like to point out another interesting trivia about this movie. Apparently, the writer of this movie is Frank Pesh. So the character, so this kind of is a biographical movie of his. And the real Frank Pesh, also plays a character. He plays the brother of the main character in this movie. So that's an interesting tidbit. Also, there was a very funny thing that happened in this movie. So you can see Frank Pesh's character from his childhood till he becomes an adult. And it was very funny to see Anthony LaPaglia playing this character at 18 or 19, and I was like, oh my god, it's clearly that this guy is like in his 30s and he's playing an 18-year-old. But to be sincere, when we are having now this technology that can de-age actors, and from what I heard, they want to make a what was a James Dean? Yeah, they wanted to make a James Dean movie by re-rendering him in CGI. I was like, what the hell is happening? So no, to be sincere, I kind of prefer the old technique to having an actor play a younger role than to have him de-aged digitally, or at least hire a younger actor to play someone. Don't do this with the CGI. It's kind of becoming very slimy, in my opinion. the original the original music composed for this movie I really liked. It was very interesting, but it didn't stay with me that much. The soundtrack of the movie is very good. I really liked it a lot. You had songs from Dean Martin like Volare and Tony Bennett, all of a lot of classical crooning songs from the 60s and the 50s. I really recommend the movie, especially for that soundtrack. And Anthony LaPaglia and Daniel Yellow had great chemistry in this movie. The jokes with Frank Pesh Sr.'s pizza were really funny, and also when it got to the drama, I really liked that about it. Also, the movie, most of the action happens into the 70s, and it was so interesting to see that they used to smoke a lot back then in their houses and in restaurants and in public places and in public buildings. That was surprising to see. You kind of don't get that to see anymore in movies now these days, but still that was very interesting. Also, the cars are beautiful. Those 60s and 70s all cars are I really liked a lot. You could say from some points of view that this movie is a Christmas movie, so who knows, maybe some people will find out about this movie during Christmas time. To be sincere, if I don't have other movies to see in Christmas of 2020, I think I'm gonna rewatch this movie. I liked it a lot. It's one of those feel good movie that leaves you with a smile on your face after it's done. It had some parts when I kind of started checking my phone, but still the movie was very likable. It's like comfort food. It really made me feel good while watching it, and it had a certain optimism to it. Also, talking about Christmas movies, it kind of reminded me a little about It's a Wonderful Life, especially at the ending. So yeah, this movie had like a lot of similarities to It's a Wonderful Life. All in all, for me. Oh, and I also want to talk about the technical part about this movie. So this movie, apparently, from what I saw, it it was filmed in 4:3, but some versions of this movie are like in pan scan. I recommend watching the 4:3 movie because the pan scan version just cuts part of the film from top and to bottom. All in all, I'd say this movie is like I am trying to avoid not to use the IMDb ratings that force you to put a round number. So I'm going to give this movie an 8.2 out of 10. Thank you very much and keep on listening.